Congressman Michael McCaul, chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security, joins us now. Congressman, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Max.
So what's on the top of everyone's minds right now is the meeting of the G20 taking place. And as world leaders are gathering, what do you believe is the top security threat that's being discussed?
I think there are several, but the two biggest ones I think are obviously North Korea with the launch of their ICBM and the situation in Syria with ISIS and the refugees. I think these will be, and I think trade will come up as well. But I think those will be the two main topics. In addition, with Putin, I think his aggression in Ukraine, annexing Crimea, being in eastern Ukraine, and his cyber warfare, really, against Ukraine and meddling in the European elections and in ours.
Let's look at one of the top threats being discussed, North Korea. I think just first and foremost, how worried should Texans be, and Americans in general be, by the nuclear threat posed by North Korea?
Well, I mean, it's a real threat to the homeland. They have an ICBM capability that we just saw that can reach the shores of the United States in Hawaii and Alaska. What we don't know is if they've been able to miniaturize their warhead, nuclear warhead, to put on top of one of these ICBMs. So the point is they're getting closer. We should take it very seriously. Our missile defense system is not quite capable to take them down at this point. And I think the broader question is the intent. Does Kim Jong-un, would he really want to hit the United States, or is this more of a showing that, hey, I've got this and treat me seriously?
What exactly is the strategy for dealing with North Korea? It doesn't seem like there are very many good options.
It's complicated. I think it's gone so far, like with Pakistan, it's hard to take it back once they get it. And so I know they're developing a military strategy, which is designed primarily to force a diplomatic, economic solution to the problem. The meeting with the president of China, I think, will be very important for the president of the United States to try to leverage North Korea to stop doing what they're doing.
President Trump even called out, though, the president of China, that trade has gone up with North Korea, between China and North Korea. China's actually taking, its role seriously on the peninsula?
Not so far. And they have, again, they're the ones who have the strongest leverage because they do have the most amount of trade with North Korea. So I think, to your point, you're correct. And I know there's been some discussion about sanctioning China based on their economic relations with North Korea. But it's a complicated situation. It's going to be very hard to turn the clock backwards on their nuclear ballistic missile program.
Did we underestimate North Korea in any way?
I think, there was negotiations by the Bush administration and Obama. I think they thought they could negotiate their way out of this, and it didn't happen. And they're so far along now, and that's my concern, is it's going to be hard to turn the clock back on it.
How does the strategy dealing with North Korea, how is that developing, how is that evolving as we see their nuclear missile program develop as well?
Well, a couple of things. Again, the military showing us support to force the diplomatic hand of the THAAD missile program being put in South Korea. That can shoot down short-range missiles. The problem are these ICBMs. Our capability to shoot down those is not there yet. It's getting there. So that missile defense system, I think, needs to be, and we'll be plussing up our appropriations in this next cycle towards that program to be able to intercept missiles coming out of North Korea if, God forbid, they start to fire at Japan, Europe, or the United States.
Let's take a look at another very serious threat to the United States, ISIS. It's been a threat for many years now. Now the group is now being kicked out of its last stronghold in Mosul. But what comes next? Does the security threat become worse, or is it lessened once ISIS is...
Question. I mean, they've been allowed to grow their self-declared caliphate for the last 5-6 years. I watched it take place, and really nothing was done. The good news is something's being done now. We have our special operators working with the Kurdish forces to take them out of Mosul, which they've almost done now, and they've actually declared victory there now. Raqqa is their capital, their stronghold, and that seems to be falling. So I think the noose is tightening around ISIS. That's the good news. The bad news is they'll continue to scatter and go to other parts of Syria and Iraq and northern Africa. So the problem doesn't go away completely. And to your point, what's going to be the governance that follows behind this when ISIS does fall? We had that same problem in Iraq when Saddam Hussein fell, and we didn't really have a strategy to deal with governance.
When it comes to protecting the homeland, does ISIS almost become more dangerous when it doesn't have any actual territory to defend and it goes more on the defensive and in sort of small lone wolf attacks like we've seen in the past?
Well, they've been a problem with the caliphate where they can conduct external operations, this laptop ban that we saw on airplanes. But if they are diminished there, they will spread and go back to where they came from, and that is the homeland threat, is if they go back to Europe, get into the United States, they're already radicalized and trained. That's a big issue. Not to mention their use of the internet is very sophisticated to recruit, train, and radicalize jihadists.
Sort of bringing it back to the G20, both of these threats, North Korea and ISIS, are global issues, but both pose threats to the mainland. How does President Trump's America First strategy play into cooperation with our allies overseas when it comes to protecting the U.S.?
Made that a real priority, and he talked about it in Poland, he talked about it in Saudi Arabia, he talked about it in Israel on his last trip, but he's going to be talking to the G20 about terrorism and how we can work together. It's a continued threat that's not going away.
But we can't just go it alone, right?
No, we can't. And we have to have the cooperation of our NATO partners, and I think it was good that he gave a strong pledge of support to NATO in Article 5. That was very important for him to do, given some of his past comments. And so I think, look, this fight is not going away. It's something that they will be talking about. And Assad is the other question: is what do we do with Assad? Is he going to stay there? My view is if he stays, the civil war will continue. We will continue to have this problem. And I think that's something that the president will be talking to Putin about.
Congressman McCaul, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Max.